Donald Trump is sinking deeper into his deranged psychosis as Iran struck yet another tanker in the Strait of Hormuz late last night, and Iran has now imposed its deadline on Donald Trump and the Trump regime that it needs to comply with the terms of the MOU, or Iran will go on the offensive. It will cut the internet cables beneath the Strait of Hormuz and potentially invade U.S. military bases in the region, which have already been abandoned by the United States. Donald Trump is now responding. Here's what he posted: an AI slop meme of the Strait of Hormuz, which does not include the countries of Bahrain and Qatar on the map. And Donald Trump writes in this deranged AI meme, "New U.S. territory, Strait of Hormuz." Also, the Department of Defense social media accounts posting creepy photos of Donald Trump with weird dramatic letters saying, "We are going to win. We are going to win." Donald Trump also posting deranged photos of Lindsey Graham, the late Senator warmonger, holding Donald Trump's Wikipedia page, wearing a hat that says, "Make Iran Great Again." And Donald Trump writes, "Lindsey having fun just a few weeks ago. Check out the hat, DJT, very morbid indeed." Then Donald Trump posts, "There are no talks or conversations going on or scheduled with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The naval blockade remains in full force and effect. The Hormuz Strait is open and operating. All water mines have been removed or detonated. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump," and his efforts to manipulate the market, both the stock market and the oil market, ain't working anymore. The crack spreads for diesel exceeding $100 a barrel at $102 a barrel right now. The price of crude, about $91 a barrel. And the markets are not liking what Donald Trump is doing. But more importantly, the American people are suffering and people throughout the world are suffering. So as this one account notes, so is Donald Trump's way to cope with the reality on the ground to ignore the burning ships that Iran keeps on striking as Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, and just keep posting AI slop that also doesn't include Qatar or Bahrain? Where is he winning? What are they doing right here? And then Donald Trump posts this deranged article from state regime media, which calls itself Fox. "Morning glory, the Supreme Court should urgently allow construction at the White House to proceed of Trump's golden ballroom." That's why we call Fox state regime media. And how deranged is it that when we see Iran striking tanker after tanker, this is Donald Trump's behavior? And Donald Trump just wants to put this catastrophic and unlawful war into what I refer to as his 2-week death loop. Like his healthcare plan. It's coming in 2 weeks. It's right around the corner. 90 deals in 90 days. It's coming around the corner. Just you wait. And Donald Trump will wait for catastrophe, which has already hit, and then he tries to blame. For Donald Trump, catastrophe is the point. He is a lifelong loser who has bankrupted casinos and has bankrupted most of his companies in life. But what he waits for is the catastrophe to try to cast the blame. Who's going to be his next Dr. Fauci? And he recognizes during times of catastrophe, economic, health, political, you name it, people are confused. And that's when the predator, Donald Trump, pounces. So this is actually what he wants. He wants to make the American people suffer as long as he and his cadre of oligarchs keep on making money for themselves and stealing from we the people. Also, the UK MTO finally admits that another bulk carrier was struck on August 15th by Iran in the Strait of Hormuz. I'm sure you remember we reported on that as well. And lots of people were saying, why are you the only one reporting on this? We don't see this anywhere else. Are you all making this up? No. I mean, we are looking at a lot of the open source material out there. You can see the ships burning. You can look at the satellite footage. And this is being covered up by the United States and being covered up by the UK at this point as well. And eventually the truth comes out. I mean, that's why we want to be telling it in real time what's happening. So let's talk about what else happened this morning. Israel, The Netanyahu regime bombed the Syrian Abu al-Duhar air base overnight, a few miles from the Turkish border. This was an air base that was being refurbished by Syria. It's possible there were Turkish forces nearby as well. And this was a major initiative of the new Syrian president, al-Shara. And we've been covering here on the MeidasTouch network how Israel wanted to make Syria its next Gaza and its next Lebanon. Israeli Diaspora Affairs Minister Ameke Shakil said the following. He's part of the Netanyahu regime. Syria is Gaza on steroids, and that is the next war. With absolute certainty, there is no avoiding it. He said that over the weekend, which we covered. You had Netanyahu in the past 48 hours saying, this is the Golan Heights. The Israeli flag flies here, and it will continue to fly here because this is our land. Today it's ours. It's back to being ours, and it will always be ours. And the Syrian president and people in Syria say, no, the Golan Heights belongs to Syria, which was taken by Israel after a war in the late 1960s. And so you see the Netanyahu regime not only ramping up in Lebanon, not only continuing the genocide in Gaza. We know that they've been striking in Syria before, but they want to escalate in Syria now to create this instability in the region. At the same time, you're seeing the Arab nations join together in the Mecca Pact and the Sunni alliance right there. Syria condemned Israeli airstrikes on the Abu al-Dahar military air base in Idlib as a violation of its sovereignty and a dangerous escalation. And with all of this taking place, what's Donald Trump doing? Again, he's just posting deranged AI slop photos this morning. I don't care what political party you're from in the United States. Folks, we need a serious leader who understands what's going on in the world and who can behave maturely, not somebody who hides in catering containers with Natalie Harp, who's referred to as his human printer. And by the way, if you actually go back and look at what Senator Ossoff said about Natalie Harp, it's just that Donald Trump likes to spend time with his assistant Natalie, which he does. She's always by his side. And wasn't it pretty revealing, all of the MAGA responses? How dare you accuse them of having a relationship together? It's not what Senator Ossoff said, but obviously you all interpreted that way, which I find very, very fascinating. Meanwhile, this morning, Iran's foreign minister says, Donald Trump is begging for talks on our terms. Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi says the U.S. objective in the war was to force Iran to surrender, but we will not surrender. America is now begging to negotiate with us according to our conditions. He said the memorandum of understanding signed with the U.S. contained 13 provisions in our favor and 1 in theirs, accusing Israel of doing everything it could to sabotage and prevent its implementation. We won the war, and we also won in diplomacy, and we forced the enemy to accept our conditions, he said, adding that Iran's military and battlefield capabilities were what gave its diplomacy strength in the negotiations. Iran's parliament leader, MB Ghalibaf, said this morning the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the blockade and oil sanctions are lifted, Iran's frozen assets are released, and military operations end. But I guess Donald Trump's just going to post AI slop and pretend he controls the Strait of Hormuz. By the way, Donald, if the Strait of Hormuz is United States territory, as you say, well, then won't the people there be able to vote? Well, so are they now American citizens in the Strait of Hormuz in this region that you posted? Is that what you are now saying? Okay, there you go. Meanwhile, one of the things that we're learning, the Washington Post reports, Pentagon is weighing, Brad Cooper, more importantly, or less importantly, the CENTCOM commander, about fully removing U.S. troops from the military bases in the region in the Middle East. They're already left the military bases because Iran's destroyed the military bases in the Middle East, but that the U.S. may never be able to rebuild those military bases in the United States. And so that's also an admission of the United States' defeat right there. Also, the Associated Press reporting this morning, Trump threatened to bomb Oman yesterday because he's unhappy with the country's deal with Iran. Donald Trump threatened to bomb Oman because he's unhappy the country is close to a deal with Iran to manage ship traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, two regional officials said Tuesday. The officials said Trump administration has told Oman it is opposed to parts of the yet-to-be-announced deal, including the joint Iranian and Omani management of the exit route out of the passage that's critical to global supplies of oil. The officials were briefed on the U.S. position and how the U.S. views Oman's position. So Donald Trump was mad because he can't do a deal or keep the deal that was negotiated, the MOU, which said Iran negotiates with the regional partners and consults with Oman. So Donald Trump's like, well, I'm going to blow you up. I'm going to bomb you because I don't like your deal. I mean, again, I don't care what political party you're from. That's not the behavior of someone who should be in a position of leadership or near a position of leadership. To me, it's a point of character. It's a point of leadership. It's a point of moral clarity. It's a point of behavior and following data and assembling a team of experts and keeping your word. And Donald Trump just doesn't do that. I mean, this isn't hyperbolic. He's a felon. He's been found civilly liable separately for being a sexual predator, for sexual assault. He just lost in front of the Supreme Court. So for all the people who go, oh, it was unfair. It was an unfair trial. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Donald Trump had the ability to testify and to show up and to be there. And he was too scared to actually testify at the trial. But his right-wing Supreme Court rejected hearing his appeal. So how many more excuses are you going to make for the guy? He's bankrupted company after company in his whole life before he got into politics. Was that some democratic liberal, democratic socialist plot against Donald Trump's companies where they time traveled and bankrupted his casinos and bankrupted all of his companies that he couldn't run in the past? No, he's a loser. He's a freaking loser. And he's a fraud. And he just takes for himself and screws over people. And as the United States security umbrella has broken down, not just in the Middle East, but it's broken down throughout the entire world. As you know, the United States has now moved out of the Pacific, its last aircraft carrier, the USS George Washington, because of the horrific logistics and horrific treatment of our brave and courageous sailors and Marines in the Persian Gulf aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. The Abraham Lincoln's going to return. The George Washington's going to replace it. We've also been focused on, though, and hearing from family members who have sailors on some of the destroyers and supporting ships, though, and they may not be returning. So we're going to be focused on that. We hear you loud and clear on that. But as the U.S. security umbrella has been decimated throughout the world and in Asia. Now, China's foreign minister Wang Yi will visit South Korea August 19th to 20th, his first official visit in 5 years. He's going to meet with the South Korean president and other officials to discuss China-South Korean ties, North Korea, and regional issues ahead of the APEC summit in November, according to Reuters. And China's going to move in, and it's going to fill that void, and it has filled that void. And the BRICS bloc is asserting itself as Donald Trump continues to attack NATO. We're also getting disturbing news this morning of yet another top MAGA Republican official, this time a top Republican former state representative very close to Governor DeSantis in Florida, who was appointed to a major position last year after 7 years in the Florida legislature, who was just accused by his grandson of making him perform oral sex on a family cruise in summer of 2024, fondling the boy's genitals and exposing himself, sexually assaulting an underage boy at Thanksgiving. And Caruso's daughter previously accused him of sexual assault as well. Top MAGA official. This is the group of people who continue to cover up the child sex trafficking ring, the Epstein files. This is the cabal. They're in Washington, D.C. The cabal tried to tell people that they weren't the cabal and they were going to find the cabal. But they're the cabal, okay? They're the ones covering up the child sex trafficking ring. They're covering up the Epstein files right now. And we learn more and more stories about people like this today. They're also the same people who want to put data centers in your backyard. They're also the same people who want to take away your health care. And it is Folks, we're getting close to the midterms, and I think it is important to reflect on accountability. It is important to reflect on enduring principles and values and the very essence of governance and why we have government to begin with. And this psychotic, crazy, deranged behavior of Donald Trump and his regime, it's really just awful human behavior. I'm not even viewing it from a political lens. It's awful human behavior. It's gross. It's disgusting. It's sick. It's sickening. It sickens me. That's sick. They're sick people. They're sickos. Like demon sick people. It's weird. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching.
Before you go, our book, WTF America, is available for pre-order now. It's the story of how we got here and how we fight our way back. To pre-order, scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.